Hey, Tuvies, this is Psychic Bob. Well, I'm just all excited. I got a new pendant here. I thought you'd like to see it. This is one of my Melchizedek pendants here. I got this one done. It's in a gold tone sort of color. My other one's in silver that I showed you a few weeks ago. This one I got in gold because the name of the order is the Order of the Gold Light of Melchizedek. And so I thought I should have a pendant to represent my connection to the order that has a gold tone. Now, you don't have to have a gold tone bit. It doesn't matter. Just something I enjoy. But, I did want to come here. And for those of you who have been following our series on Melchizedek, normally we have it on Monday. Today we're having it on Friday because we had the Wiccan Festival of Lammas earlier in the week and then horoscopes. So that kind of took up our beginning of the week. But here we are. It's Friday. And, Friday's a good day for a class as well. Well, I want to come here. We're going to continue along with our Melchizedek series. And I just want to remind you guys, as part of your assignments, if you can, at my website, you can print out this picture. Just print it out, save it to your desktop, and you can print it out and frame it. It's Lord Melchizedek, who's the head of our order. So we're going to talk more about him today and more about the order and its work. But I thought we would start today with some questions. I've been getting a number of letters from all of you, and I thought we would kind of address those, okay? One of the first letters I got was somebody wrote me and they said, "Dear Bob, I'm interested in joining the order. As you're an initiating priest, if you do my initiation, does that mean I am bound to you, that you are my guru?" And they said basically they don't like to be in a situation where they feel they have to answer to somebody or have a guru because they have another spiritual teacher they work with. Absolutely not. In our order, initiation is basically simply a facilitation. That may be a better word than initiation. What we're going to do when we get to that, it's going to be a few weeks yet, and we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, I'm going to help open the current and lead you basically through a ritual that allows you then to embrace the current of the order of Melchizedek. And then you will also be a member of the order of the gold light of Melchizedek. And you will become, the term is a priest of the order of the golden light of Melchizedek. And anybody who goes through this, also as you receive your full initiation, you will also in turn be able to then generate the initiation to others. So the order is growing through people who seriously commit to this and then want to share it with others. Now, as I said, I received my initiation for free. And part of our request is that you then transmit the initiation for free. I can't force people to do that. If you just want to charge for initiations, I guess you're going to do that. But I kind of feel it would not be in harmony with the spirit of this order because I received it for free and I was charged then to grant it for free. And I hope that those who take the initiation and want to share that initiation will also grant it to others. Now, when you take on your initiation to the order of Melchizedek, that does not mean that you have to then be a full-time priest, quit your job, and only do initiations. What it means is that you're going to be called to service of the Spirit. This order of Melchizedek does not give you an assignment. It doesn't say you have to go now and, heal 10 people or whatever. We encourage people to take an initiation because they may not know how they want to serve or where they want to serve, but all they know in your heart, and this is what's important, is to know that you just want to be of service to the higher power, to God, if you will, to Lord Melchizedek, and to the universe. And if that's truly in your heart, you don't have to take any qualms about, taking an initiation, have any qualms. You can feel comfortable knowing that you're entering into it with the right mind, the right spirit. I will not direct your life. I will not be your guru. You don't have to answer to me or to report to me. Once you're an initiate, you're free to take your calling with the Spirit and take it wherever you want into the world. You're free and you're not under any obligations or bounded by any rules or regulations, except to honor the order and represent it well, and to also share the gift of the initiation with those who are feeling also called. So I hope that answers that. No, I will not be your master. I will not be your guru. You're independent. And that's how the order's set up. So it's all about freedom, freedom to answer to the Spirit. You don't answer to Bob HIckman, okay? I don't want that responsibility, okay? So I've not claimed that. That's not part of the tradition. But you will be open to Melchizedek's guidance. And I just love this picture of him. And you'll be open to his presence and his power, okay? So I hope that answers that. Now, I got another question also. Somebody said, Psyche Bob, will I be a legally ordained priest? Can I do marriages? Can I do this sort of thing? No, let me clarify this. Our priesthood is a mystical priesthood. It means that you are free to serve wherever you feel called. Now, if you want to pursue a legal priesthood, you can do that. And there are various churches which I can recommend to you, and I'll do that offline if you really want to get ordained as a legal minister. There are churches that will allow you to do that, and you can function as a legally licensed priest of Melchizedek. And again, this deals in with state law. I myself am a legally registered ordained minister. So my Melchizedek priesthood is connected to the state, and I can legally do marriages. But you don't have to get into all that. It's really not necessary unless you really feel that that's your calling. Then we can talk about that. But your ministry will be to be the presence of the Spirit. And that doesn't require any legal papers. For example, as a priest of Melchizedek, you may feel like you want to visit your local nursing home. I know people that do this work. They just make it their ministry to every week stop in on a Sunday afternoon at their local nursing home and just visit patients. They just stop in, they get to know the staff, and they say, a lot of nursing homes love it when people come in to visit because there are a lot of people who have no one to visit them. And I can tell you, I've seen this myself and done it. And you just go to the head nurse's station. You say, hi, do you have any patients who are alone and would love company? And usually they'll take you right down to like the social room or the game room, and they'll introduce you to people. And you can just go visit people. And that's a wonderful form of ministry. So your Melchizedek priesthood could be lived out in service and just visiting with the elderly. That's a wonderful way because you bring with your priesthood that light. Now, you don't have to go preaching to everybody and saying, God said this. No. It's simply a presence. You may be led at some point to share spiritual truth, but the order of Melchizedek is not a preaching order, not in the sense that we go out and tell people you have to get right with God. No, It's the gentle presence of Lord Melchizedek, being that presence. Sometimes the most powerful, in fact, really oftentimes the most powerful way to do that is not through preaching, but simply being present. So it's a ministry of presence is what I like to call it. So as you're preparing for initiations, think about how would you want to be that presence? You may not know. And if you get to initiation, you still don't know, don't worry about it. If you're still feeling called, take your initiation. You don't have to have it all figured out. But I put this out so you can start to think about it. Maybe, for example, your form of work for the Order of Melchizedek would simply be to, work as a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout leader. Maybe you want to be of service to your community. Maybe you want to visit people in hospitals, nursing homes. Maybe you just want to, make your ministry. Maybe there's an older person in your neighborhood who has nobody. Maybe your presence of ministry could be just to go take them a little cake every week or a little snack and sit and talk to them. But a whole time you bring through that light of Melchizedek. So whenever you do a task into the order, you must channel through. Now you must. It is the best way to do is to channel in that light before you go out. bring it through you, and then go into the world and be the presence. And that's what it's about. Okay, so it's not a rigid order. We don't have rules. There's no defining law. You may take your initiation and you might even wait a year till you figure out what you want to do. I know one member of the Order of Melchizedek who she felt called to teach art classes at a nursing home. And she went to the nursing home. She said, I'm an artist. I love art. Would you let me come in and teach classes? And what they did is she said, they brought people in that were very depressed. That had nobody to visit them. And she started teaching them art lessons. And they blossomed and their lives transformed. And some of them, she actually paints spirit guides. She painted their spirit guides, which was also a wonderful blessing. So you see, that's another way you can serve the order. So anyways, there's a lot more. We'll probably go more in on that in future classes. But just know today that the order is, you get to call how you want to work. You don't answer to me. I am not a guru. I hope to be a spiritual mentor and a help to those of you who need help on the way. But that's different than me setting down the rules and you have to answer to me. You're free. Okay? Hope that helps. All right. And then we had another question. Somebody wrote to me and they said, Psychic Bob, I'm not Jewish. I'm not Christian. I believe in a higher power, but I can't define it. Can I be a member of the order? Absolutely. The Order of Melchizedek is a little different than, like, for example, the Order of the Purple Cord. The Order of the Purple Cord, which I also am part of, is a Wiccan order. Wicca tends to be polytheistic, works with a lot of different spiritual energies. The difference is that the Order of Melchizedek tends to be more on the monotheistic side. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be a conflict. Because you can be Wiccan and still be in the Order of Melchizedek. One of the teachings of the Order of Melchizedek is that there is a divine force. They call it the one force of divinity that manifests in the world continually. So you could consider that, like, for example, that could manifest in a lot of different people, different prophets, different guides, different people throughout the world. So we don't define how you define the one source. We're going to get into that a little more today when we talk about really the true identity and role of Lord Melchizedek. But to answer your question, you do not have to be of a Jewish background or a Christian background. In fact, the Order of Melchizedek actually transcends all the earthly religions because it's actually an order that is focused on transcendent reality, the concept that the divine permeates through every human, every plant, every animal, every element of the earth, that the power of God is bigger than what any one religion says. So the Order of the Gold Light of Melchizedek is more of a kind of a broader based spirituality that recognizes the unity of divinity throughout the universe. And really, when we get down to it, like people that are Wiccan, some people are Wiccan have written, so, well, I don't know, I'm a polytheist, this sounds too monotheistic. That's okay. If you're not feeling connected, it may not be the order for you, and there's no problem. But it's not necessarily a conflict with the Wiccan view either, because I've met many Wiccans who say they believe that beyond the Lord and the Lady, that there's the even greater force that animates the universe. It's like the Lord and the Lady have even beyond them a force. And so if you consider that there is a force that is even more unified than, that exists, then there's no real conflict with it. So you can be Wiccan and be a member of the order. You don't have to be any religion. You don't have to subscribe to Christianity or Judaism. You may or you may not. You could even be a Hindu and be a member of the Order of Melchizedek. You could be, basically even just a general person believing the general belief in God with no other formation beyond that and be a member of the order. So it is an order that does require a belief in a higher power. So if you say, well, I'm an agnostic or an atheist, this may not be the order for you because a lot of our focus will be on working with the higher powers. So if you don't have a faith in a spiritual realm, this is the only thing that may not work for you. But if you're at a place where you're just saying, I don't know, I'd like to know if there's a higher power, then by all means, you could find, if you find no conflict within with believing in a higher power, the order of the gold light of Melchizedek could well be for you. Okay. So anyways, those are some of the pressing questions I've been getting. I hope that helps. Definitely, in the box below, write if you have any other questions you'd like to address. I think for the next few weeks, we're going to definitely, I'll cover questions because we are getting some. They're very good. Thank you for sending them. But I hope that helps allay some of the concerns and fears. Okay. Well, now we're going to talk a little bit more about the Merkaba today from last week's class. If you haven't seen last week's video, I would really encourage you to go back from the beginning and see the previous videos. In fact, I think I'll put a playlist up so you can have them all in one place. And see, you need to watch this in sequence because each class builds on the next, okay? So last week, for those of you who are with us, we talked about the mystical Merkaba. And just to give you a flashback, I'm going to put a picture up here for you. Okay, now that mystical Merkaba, as you know, is a form of sacred geometry. And we talked all about sacred geometry, about going from the two-dimensional Star of David, which I'll put up here, to the three-dimensional star, Merkaba star. So this is why members of the order oftentimes wear the Star of David. It's not a sign that we're necessarily a Jewish order, because we're not really a Jewish order, but it's a mystical sign. And as we talked about last week, the hexagram is the six-pointed star, is one of the symbols of the order. And it is actually transcendent of any one religion because it's used in many mystical works. A lot of ancient ceremonial magicians use it. It's used in theosophy. It's used in thelema. A lot of the spiritual paths use this symbol. So you can wear it and you don't have to be Jewish, okay? So that was the other question. Is it a Jewish order? It has its roots, I would say, in some of the ancient mystical elements of Judaism, but is not a Jewish order per se, okay? So as we're talking about that Merkaba, I hope you guys, by the way, the other assignment was to print out a picture of the Merkaba like we showed. And that is on my website. If you guys haven't gotten that, I would encourage you also print that out and put that up in your meditation area. Every member of the order, I would like to encourage you to set up a little place, a shrine, if you will, a meditation area where you can work on your meditations and studies. And you don't have to have a lot, just have a little table, maybe have a candle or two. You can have any candle, as many candles as you want, but at least one candle. I would encourage you to put up a picture of Melchizedek on the altar, and also somewhere around there on the wall or near the altar, or even on the altar, the picture of the Merkaba. That will help you to focus, okay? Now, you're going to say, well, Psychic Bob, I've been doing the Merkaba meditation. I'm getting the light into me. What's next? Well, that's good. If you've been doing that meditation, you're going to find that it starts to raise your vibration. Now, I had another person write. I don't have all my letters here, so forgive me. I'm doing this kind of on the sly here, but somebody wrote, you know who you are. And they said, Psyche Bob, I did the Merkaba meditation, and I got the golden light going, and then the Merkaba turned black. Is that an ominous sign? No. What that means is that the Merkaba, it will sometimes go through different colors, because what it means is that your energy is connecting to it. And the fact that it turned black is not a sign that you're evil or bad. It could be an element of purification. It's drawing out fear out of you. It's drawing out that which is, base and raising you. But as you work with it, eventually, don't panic. That golden light comes back. If you see it change colors, just allow that to happen. And then practice visualizing it going back to gold. Okay, so you might say, well, Bob, I did it. I got it glowing gold, and then it turned blue. That's okay. Just sit in that blue light. But then take a few minutes and then try to consciously bring it back to gold. You want to get used to working with that energy, because I'll tell you, when you sit in the Merkaba star, there's like a hum. I don't know if any of you experience this, but there's a hum, there's a vibration that you'll start to really feel. And it's very palpable, very tangible, and it's very real. The Ascended Masters knew all about this, and they definitely reported it, okay? Now, here's the next trick, okay? You think, well, I kind of got that. Okay, you got that? All right, now it gets a little more complex. The next phase of the meditation is that once you're in that Merkaba star that's sitting you're in its three-dimensional place, you want to spin it clockwise. So just spin it like to the, moving toward the right. What you're going to do initially when you start that, just rotate it, visualize it rotating slowly at first, okay? Don't try to overwhelm yourself. Take it slow, but just move it, maybe just a few inches. And realize what you'll discover is that through your psychic vision, you're actually able to start to direct the movement. And what you want to do is try to rotate that a full 360 degrees around your body. As you do that, be aware of the sensations. You'll feel the movement. You might even get a little dizzy while you're doing it, because you'll be like, whoa, things are moving. Just relax. I promise you'll get used to that movement. And the goal is to start to spin the Merkaba. You know how a top spins? Well, you want to spin the Merkaba around you. And as you spin that, what you'll find is that power is released. It sends out a vortex, an energy field that goes out in like a circular direction or out to the sides. And this is the beginning of the power of the Merkaba. In time, and this will be in future classes, if you work with that, getting used to that spinning, eventually you will feel that the Merkaba is spinning, but at the same time, there's a lightness. It'll almost feel like somebody's lifting you up out of your chair. And what that is the Merkaba, as it spins faster, gains momentum and starts to lift. It is literally the power that lifts the light body. So for your internal body, spinning that will raise your vibration and allow you to merge with the Merkaba to where it lifts you. Now, you ready for another shocking thought? This is something that when I first discovered really kind of tripped me out. If you study the ancient history, particularly like in Peru, where the Nazca lines are, and various teachings about people who saw the ancient ascended ones and said they came to earth, many of them are reported, and this is also in the Hindu scriptures as well, that they traveled in ships of light. If you expand the power of the Merkaba, what it forms is a shape. It's long and elliptical and round, very much like a flying saucer. And it is believed that many of the ancient ascended masters, as well as the visitors from like the Pleiades, actually traveled not in ships of metal, but in ships of light that were generated through the Merkaba exercise. So as you work with spinning that, I want you to try to visualize what is happening with the energy, the light around the Merkaba. You may start to see a glow extend outwards, and that's a sign that the power is rising. Eventually in your meditation, you'll get to the point to where you can actually start to levitate the Merkaba inside of it. Your physical body right at the moment may not levitate, but you will know that your light body is moving. And eventually you'll be able to raise that higher and project it out into the earth, to the cosmos, to the universe. That takes time, so let's not rush on that. That's going to be down the road. But for right now, I want you to try to learn to spin that Merkaba. And that's why I want you to keep that picture, and I'll put it up here again, of the Merkaba near your altar, because that's going to help you keep a visual focus of what that Merkaba star looks like, okay? So that is your next week's homework assignment. You got to learn to spin the Merkaba, okay? All right, well, we'll talk more about that next week. But also, I wanted to come here and just kind of expand a little more. We're going to go a little long today about Lord Melchizedek, who he really is. Now, in the order, he is believed to be the ascended master, meaning he's a being of great wisdom, ancient power, and light. He was believed to be on earth, but there's even more to Lord Melchizedek that I find very fascinating. I wanted to read a little bit about him from this book, The Order of Melchizedek, and this is by Reverend Daniel Chesborough. And I would encourage you to get this book. It talks all about the work of the Order of Melchizedek. Now, when we talk about who Lord Melchizedek really is, this is something I'd like you to consider. I'm not saying you have to believe it. See, we're not about forcing beliefs here. It's something to consider. You may disregard this. Well, I just believe he was a man who had mystical power, and that's fine. But this is another view that many in the order hold about Lord Melchizedek, okay? So, hold on just a second here. All right, I'm going to read a little while here, so bear with me, okay? Melchizedek, this is from the chapter, Who or What is Melchizedek? Melchizedek's job was to come into the world as a teacher, a guide, a role model, a prince of peace, a judge, and as a redeemer to redeem that epoch in history. A redeemer is a high teacher who assists others to see alternative probabilities, and in so doing may shift global consciousness. She changes how you look at things. Here, epoch signifies an age, a change, for example, the transition from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. It is often at the turn of an epoch that the light appears to itself, to remind those who are presently in this function of the light on the earth plane how to maintain the connection with God, how to return home and to acknowledge their higher power. This is what the energy of Melchizedek did during that incarnation. Now again, remember, Melchizedek appeared on the earth in a physical form in ancient Israel. Okay, and he still appears to people today in this form. The word incarnation means to be clothed in a flesh body, carnis. Melchizedek's body was more spirit than flesh, and so we will call his/her appearance an intrusion into matter. Now let me just interrupt here. He says he calls Melchizedek his and her because what he's trying to say is that Melchizedek ultimately transcends gender and is available to each person regardless of gender. So let me reread that. Melchizedek's body was more spirit than flesh, and so we will call his/her appearance an intrusion into matter. The Redeemer may appear as a down-to-earth personality. The phrase being down to earth means taking on mass in order to be physically and or spiritually present. Now this is very significant because he's talking about that Melchizedek took a form. He entered into matter. He lowered his vibration to be present. Also being down to earth refers to the need for an avatar or high teacher to be plain spoken and easily understood by those to whom he or she has come. According to scripture and Edgar Cayce was a very famous psychic in the 1920s through the 1940s. Melchizedek was never born of a woman. When God decided to come into the earth plane, it did not wait for a birth event, but simply appeared in this third dimension. In order to be here, God pushed itself into this dense matter. As it presented itself on the earth plane, it was not an infant, babe, or child, but a fully grown adult male in male vestment or body. It took a male form in order to be generally appreciated, accepted, and understood. At that time, women were not appreciated as equal in terms of creatorship by society at large. Although God did. God appreciated women, but society had struggles there. But on entering that level of mentality, God appeared in a male form in order to be heard by both men and women. There are two areas or towns where God appeared. One was Ur, or Uru, which means light. And the other was Salem, which is similar to Shalom or Salim, which means peace. These two areas were not a single city, but were close to one another. Today we call this place Jerusalem. Melchizedek was not the king of Jerusalem, for Jerusalem did not exist, but was recognized as king of Ur and Salem, and also as a priest of the God Most High. Both of these roles were to teach. So I'm going to pause for a second here. So what the order is saying is that the ascended master, Melchizedek, was actually an incarnation of divinity. He wasn't just a person. He was the divine, the light, the true light of the Spirit that took on a physical form. This is very powerful because then you realize that when you work with Melchizedek, you're not just working with some person, you're working with a form of divinity. So for those of you who say, well, I have trouble finding a form of God that I can relate to, maybe Lord Melchizedek is a form of divinity. Maybe he is the visible form of your higher power. And I would encourage you to consider that as a possibility. That if you don't know who your higher power is, you don't have a higher power, why don't you ask Lord Melchizedek to work with you? Because all forms of the divine exist equally. So whether you call this Melchizedek, or whether you call it Lord Shiva, or whether you call it Pan or Gaia, there are many forms. And I really believe, as I said, all forms of divinity are really the same. They're just different manifestations of the light. So this is one example in actual history where the light took on a form and walked upon the earth. This was even before Jesus. So you see, very mystical, very mystical. So when we talk about Melchizedek, it's a lot deeper than just some guy walking around, okay? Now, let me continue on here. The kingly role, remember he was king of Ur and king of Salem, okay? The kingly role demonstrates the male side of God and the male use of energy, yang. You know, like yin, yang, okay? You remember that, okay? Yang, male energy. Whether you are a male or female, you have the power to be the master of your domain, or your physical nature and all that it represents, body, mind, spirit, etc. To be regent of your domain is to be in total control and responsible for your incarnation using the active male side of God-created energy. The priestly role, now remember he was king and priest, okay, so this is the priest. The priestly role demonstrates the feminine side of God and the feminine use of energy, yin, yin-yang, okay. Whether you are female or male, you have the power to be the priest of your temple and to create or bring to fruition, to birth, what is needed for your incarnation, using the receptive and nurturing female side of God, God-created energy. It is interesting that Melchizedek is in a male form while also demonstrating the feminine side of God as a priest. Melchizedek is a total androgynous being, which means here that it's more in spirit than in flesh. In essence, it is neither male nor female, but both in its presentation. It takes on these double roles to be an example for the people, providing two ways to approach God by being master of your house and or priest of your temple, which are really the same thing. This was done so that people would, if they chose, approach themselves in that way. Because there is still the external temple, there is still the external regency in terms of kings and queens and nobles. So that's just a little bit from this book. I really encourage you to get the book, The Order of Melchizedek. And it's by Reverend Daniel Chesborough. So, you know, this is getting deep and heavy, but the fact is that, you know, the male and female energies, like we talk about in Wicca, the Lord, the Lady, these energies are universal. And so you can be a Wiccan and see harmony with those energies also within Lord Melchizedek and the work of the Order of Melchizedek. So there you go, guys. There's going to be, we're going to end it there today because that's a lot to digest. So here's your homework assignments. If you haven't done so, go back, watch the previous videos, print out your pictures at my website, robert-hickman.com, okay? For those of you who want to get a star to wear as becoming a part of the order, Lady Angela at her website now is carrying these stars. What you want to do is go there and go to, on the left column, it'll say All Psychic Bob's Favorites. That's a category on the site. When you click there, she has in there some beautiful little golden stars of the Order of Melchizedek that you can buy. They're very inexpensive. And so definitely check over there. By the way, also for those of you who are new, if you're a member of Spirit Channel, one of the benefits of being a subscribed member is that you can now get a discount over at Rare Wicca Spells. What you want to do is when you check out, if you put in the box Spirit Channel, say, do you have a coupon to redeem? Type in the word Spirit Channel, all one word, the name of this channel, and you get a 10% discount. And you can use that anytime. It's not just one time, it's forever. When you go there and shop, anytime you shop, you put in your discount code of Spirit Channel, Lady Angela will give you 10% off your order. And I tell you, that's a real exciting thing. I didn't ask her if I get the 10%. I know she's giving it to y'all. I'm going to find out. I hope I get it. Lady Angela, do I get 10%? Let's hope so. I'm part of Spirit Channel. Well, I hope so too. Well, guys, listen, you rock. Thank you for being here. I send you blessings. I hope you'll keep watching. Next week, we're going to continue to talk more about the Merkaba. We're going to talk about working more with sacred geometry and some more about Lord Melchizedek and the work of the order. So be here. I think we're probably going to have 2 more classes, And then the next one after this, so like 3 more classes and initiation at the 3rd class, okay? Unless you guys feel you need more time and you want more lessons, we're going to cover more, so don't worry if you're feeling like you're not ready yet. But definitely send me your questions in the box below, anything you want to ask about what we've talked about, anything about Melchizedek. We're going to definitely continue to explore this and learn. I'm so glad you're here. I send you guys my blessings. Keep it here, Spirit Channel. Like this, favorite, hit subscribe, be part of our scene. Be back here tomorrow for Saturday. We got Saturday night seance. Blessings to you all, and let's attune to the mystical master, Lord Melchizedek. Blessed be.